they are so shocked that people don't give a fuck. They're so shocked that even though this person was a Christian, we're not pretending that we don't remember what he said. We're not pretending that he was a good person. We're not pretending. They're shocked because for so long, you couldn't say anything bad about the dead. Oh, don't speak bad about the dead. Well, fuck Charlie Kirk.
I don't know when or if I'll post this, but today's September 15th and it's 9:05 a.m. and yesterday at 5 p.m. I was fired from my job for posting a video saying I don't care about Charlie Kirk's death. In the video that I posted, I specifically said I wasn't celebrating it, but that I just don't care. And yet I was still fired from a job where my role was to increase educational equity to all students. That was my job. That was like, wasn't really just my job, it was like my identity too. I think that's been my whole career. Like, how can we get the highest quality education to as many students? For this job, I worked at a nonprofit where I taught reproductive health to LGBTQ youth and youth in foster care in Dallas, Texas. And like, that was hard, but after I did it, I was so proud of myself, and I told myself I wouldn't go back to a job where like I couldn't be my authentic self, and I thought that's what I had in my job. And actually, the funny thing is I wasn't fired for saying that I don't care about it, because everyone on my team agrees with that, or everyone I've talked to, and people can say that, and I would have been okay to say that in my team chat at work. But I was fired because I was doxxed by someone who knows me, and they posted my job and my LinkedIn to the white supremacists.
So, question is, people are getting fired from their job for negative comments that they've made about Charlie Kirk online. Okay with it, not okay with it. What are y'all thoughts on it? I'm gonna start with Jerry.
Anybody losing their job is something that's serious. So I do hope that she's able to find another job. At the same time, this happened with the whole George Floyd thing and BLM. And I think that because Charlie Kirk was assassinated in the way that he was, and he was essentially one of the good guys on the moderate right, I think that conservatives aren't playing fair. Republicans aren't playing fair anymore. They're tired of being nice about the situation. They're not going to be violent. They're not going to burn things up and, loot and do all of that, but they're going to hit you where it hurts. And unfortunately, that's just the consequence of what happens. Like, you can't say stuff like that, because it wasn't an issue when y'all were inciting violence during BLM. But
this is the same group of people that will find what you said 8 years ago and then try to get you fired over it. So I'm not tripping. Yep. Yeah, you could lose it.
And the conservatives said that too. They were saying, look, we were never going to stoop to this level, but there's no more playing nice anymore. Like, there's no more, we're going to sit up here and be quiet. The silent majority is starting to speak out more. I think Miss Nikki had mentioned that earlier, with people starting to speak out more about their beliefs and everything. So
I'm concerned. I would want to know the context of why she got fired. Like, what was her role? It sounded like she was like was she a teacher? Because I think that matters.
Exactly. I don't know exactly.
I think that matters.
I thought she said she was helping the
teacher.
Kind of just talk in general about how she was working with a nonprofit, working with students, stuff like that.
Well, yeah, a lot of teachers and nurses have been fired, and I think that if you have one of those type of jobs, you are complaining that you got fired, you lost your job over your opinion, but Charlie Kirk lost his life. You can get another job.
I think people don't read what they're signing when they get a job. I'd be curious to know if that was in the contract, right? If it was in the contract, then she deserved to get fired. If it wasn't in the contract and it was on some political move, then I'm not really for somebody getting fired.
Some jobs.
Let me give you a little bit more insight. Reportedly over 1,000 people have been fired for comments about this so far. And there are also people that are paying attention to what people saying on social media, and they sending the clip over to their jobs and stuff like that. So just adding a little bit of context.
I think the context matters. I would like to know why exactly they got? What did they violate? If
I
they
don't.
violated something, I'm all
Morality.
for it. I'm all for them getting fired if they violated something. But if they didn't violate anything,
That's what's
I
wrong with
mean,
it.
a company
I don't even think it's that deep.
can fire any employee they want to for any reason. They don't
There you
I'm
have
good
to
go.
with it.
have a
Yeah.
reason.
As long
Then
as
I'm
it's
good
not
with it.
protected, as long as it's not like ADA,
Then I'm good with it.
HIPAA, FMLA, or anything like that, they can fire for any reason, and you can't sue them for wrongful termination.
Yeah, if you know that
Correct.
going into the job, then that's on you.
If
I
it's
Yeah.
also
a
think
right
like
to work
It's
state, you
mostly
can do
any
whatever you
job.
want.
And I
yeah.
believe
I also know. I know for me, I'm in tech, so a big part of where I am now, or just even my past jobs, was due to my social media, like my LinkedIn. Like companies look at that stuff. They see how influential you are. They look at your followers. They look at that stuff. Even now, like while you're employed, they look at that stuff. And if you're a bad reflection on the company or you're inciting violence, it doesn't even have to be like rah rah, we gonna be here at 5 p.m. tonight. If you're doing anything like in that realm of tribalism, I'll say, yeah, they're gonna get you out of there, bro.
It's
I
about your
believe that
character.
this is yeah, I believe that this is going to help people to really become less biased in everything. Because people are just so biased on things. They feel so strongly about it, and they're like, I have to say something to the world. They gotta hear me proclaim it at the top of the roof. And it's like you're literally willing to sacrifice your livelihood and you don't even know it. Like that's the type of ignorance that is just outrageous. People need to learn how to be less biased, more willing to hear people out, more willing to accept people's differences, like truly accept people's differences. They want to accept the LGBTQs and this and that, but they don't want to accept me for not believing the same thing as you. That's the stuff that people really have to start doing. And
So are you
people will
saying
be
that
able
they
to
shouldn't have gotten fired?
no, heck no. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's a sad thing. If she really didn't know or whatever, I say, it's a very unfortunate thing to figure out what your consequences are without even knowing this was even a consequence.
I think it's a keyboard warrior thing too. It's like you can get behind that keyboard and that screen and say
think you could
all
just say
kinds of
anything.
inflammatory things and think there's no consequence for it. But
Mhm.
if you were face to face with that person, they wouldn't say nearly what they say online.
And then not even just that, E-Train. First of all, wasn't our people doing the same thing to any and every white person or anybody that was speaking against just last year before that, all these other years since the
Oh, yeah.
pandemic? They was getting people fired. Cancel culture. There you go. Wasn't they doing that?
The
They're
liberals
still doing it.
created cancel culture.
Yeah, I find it ironic that these people that are complaining about getting fired about Charlie Kirk for their negative comments don't realize that Charlie Kirk got assassinated for what they deemed negative
Free
consequences.
speech and
Right. So
Exactly.
that's
I'm
what
And
I
not
that's
a
find.
the
fan
wildest
of
thing.
I'm not a fan of doxing people. I got to be honest. Um, I've just always been consistent about that. I'm not a fan of calling somebody's job to try to get them fired. I'm just not, and I don't
No,
agree.
because mind your business.
I don't agree with it on both sides. I don't agree with none of that shit. So I don't agree with it when it comes to Democrats doing it to Republicans. I don't agree with it when it comes to Republicans doing it to Democrats. The reason that I don't feel sorry for these people is because you still got to protect yourself no matter what. Like you got to make sure that you protect the bag, and so that's a you thing. If you didn't read your company's policy, if you decided that you wanted to jump online and say some wild shit, that's on you. However, I'm not in favor of calling. Now, if your job discover it or whatever, even if you get caught up in some shit and somebody sent it, you should have protected yourself. You know what I'm saying? Two wrongs don't make a right, but I am not a fan of, and I never have been a fan of trying to get somebody removed from a job. That's not my thing, personally. That's
Right,
just
right.
a personal thing. So
I think when we see the nurses, there were nurses and doctors saying out loud, even in front of their patients, he deserved it. I'm glad he's dead. You cannot be in a medical field. I'm going to tell you now, in the medical field, you take an oath to care for life. Whether that, I don't care. You can be racist towards me. You can be prejudiced towards me. I took an oath. You need medical treatment, I'm going to give it to you. Even if I think something, you will never hear it. We are living in times where people feel that they have to verbalize and vocalize every opinion. And we as a country are falling from grace. We cannot have American citizens being gleeful and cheerful about one of our fellow American citizens, whether we agree with their political views or not, dying, because you're not just celebrating their death, you are celebrating and encouraging more assassinations or murders for people who have different political ideologies than you. That is dangerous. And I think people are conflating it. So we can't have people that are teaching our children, even a teacher who just showed the Charlie Kirk murder throughout the whole class, replayed it over for 5th and 6th graders. I'm telling you now, if that was my child, you please put some money together for my bail. You know what I mean? Because those children could be traumatized. So I think that most people have to lose their jobs because we cannot trust you to have that mindset and care for people's children and people's health. How do we not know that someone may come into the hospital with a MAGA hat and
that's what people were saying?
Give them glucose and they're not diabetic. They're dead immediately.
Yep. And
You
there were
know, I'm
doctors
conflicted
saying that they
about
wouldn't
this.
save them. There were
I mean,
doctors
that
saying
is
they would not
scary.
have
I've thought about that. That is
I'm
different.
just conflicted
I'm not
about
into
this.
the doxing.
I'm not
It's,
sure how I feel about this.
Which
I
part,
am not
Anton?
with the
I'm
doxing.
conflicted because I don't know. I mean, I live by the principle that you still should be able to support your family. However, I do realize that there are certain jobs where you are affecting the public or you are affecting people's kids and stuff. And so I think that you make a good point on that. But I am still conflicted because I don't think that everybody should have, or I don't think that people should be fired just because they got a different political ideology or a different reaction to an issue than you.
But I don't
I
think
mean, it's
Okay,
I don't think
Whatever
it's
there's a,
reason,
about
I
their
mean, I
political
understand.
it's just
ideology.
not making sense to me.
Well,
I was
political
going to say,
I don't think
Anton,
it's about their
I
political
don't think that's
ideology
political
though.
ideology, Anton. That is evil.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
just straight up
Maybe
hatred.
in type,
That's a
maybe in
bad
type
look
of
on a
those
company.
jobs like hospital stuff. Like I've thought about that when I saw the video about the doctors, the teachers. That's wow. That would put me over the edge. Like
Whenever I hear somebody say something like that, what I try to do is I try to put myself in their shoes, right? And again, let me preface this by saying that I understand that there's consequences that come along with saying what you want to say, because you do not have to pick up the phone, you do not have to hit record, and you do not have to upload it. So I get it. All right. So once we get past that part of it, I don't believe in doxing, right? So I don't believe in going out of my way to try to find out where it is that you work so that I could try to get you fired just because you think differently than me or you reacted differently to me or you even evil, right? I just, for whatever reason, I don't believe in removing somebody's ability to earn. Now there's been plenty of people that disagree with me, and there's been plenty of people that tried to find out where I worked at when I had a corporate job, and they was never able to do so because I never ever left the trail. I wouldn't even update my LinkedIn until after I left the company. So I was very careful with how it is that I moved. And I was very careful with all of that. But to say that somebody would say that, oh, Anton is insensitive towards this particular subject, that he live streamed last night, and so he deserved to lose his benefits and ability to feed his family, I can't say that I agree with that. And so if
well, I
I
don't
wouldn't
agree
want
with
it,
that.
if I wouldn't want it done to me, and that's the way that I live my life. If I wouldn't want somebody to do something to me, then that's not something that I would do to somebody else.
Can I
When
ask you?
I say doxing, no,
Oh,
I'm
no.
thinking when I'm thinking about, because I do not agree with doxing, but like I said, those type of jobs, it is scary, and I really didn't think about that to now. But I'm really thinking about doxing, where they come into your house, where they threaten your family, like finding out all that kind of stuff.
But that's a part of it, because what I'm seeing and that's the thing. What I'm seeing online is people are putting people's whole addresses. They putting out where people live at, which obviously, you know, so a lot of these people got kids. It's not just where they work and stuff like that. This is beyond all of that. And so that's the thing. A
Yeah.
lot of times people don't acknowledge that you got extremes on both sides. And
Yeah.
so when you got extremes on both sides, it almost turns into, and this is the part that I fear. It's like, so how low is each side gonna go before we just fucking hit hell? You know what I'm saying? Is anybody gonna be like, you know what?
We
I'm
might be
too
heading to
grown
a
for this
civil
shit,
war.
and I don't got time for this. And my
Oh, it
focus,
is.
because I believe that almost like it's a lot of us that's being distracted away from the real thing that we should be focusing on because we so focused on what everybody else is doing. And so
Yeah.
I can't get distracted in that way, bro. And it's like, I get it. I understand that people want war, but goddamn, like, is there a limit? Like, you putting people's addresses online, putting people where you can't put people in danger like that.
No, I mean
It's not
that's
a
just
limit.
one step closer to civil war, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah, that's
let's
what I was
just not
saying
go
too.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the difference, though, with this and how it was before, if Kamala Harris would have won, I don't think that people would have lost their jobs over celebrating Charlie Kirk's death and assassination. I think that ever since Trump got elected, that there was this sort of shift and holding people accountable, doing all of that. So I think that's part of the reason as well. Because realistically, if Kamala Harris was in office right now, I don't think that people would have been getting fired, no matter how extreme it was, because it would have been deemed as acceptable and wouldn't have mattered because now we have who we wanted in office to be in office. But the fact that Trump won re-election after not having a consecutive 2 terms, that on top of everything else has been added to their hate for conservatives and the right. And that is why they are justifying the fact that he was killed in the way that he was killed.
Wait, that part I don't know if I agree with. So you're saying that if Kamala won, then if somebody cheered Charlie Kirk's death,
I don't think that
wouldn't
they would have been fired.
But you have to assume that the person that doxed this person was like a Democrat or liberal, right? Because I'm assuming that this person who doxed this woman was probably a conservative.
No, I think that yes, they would have been a conservative, but from my perspective and how I see it is, if Kamala Harris was in office, yes, there would have been people trying to call. There may have been a few people here and there that may have been, fired from being doxxed. But I think that since Trump has inserted a sense of accountability for certain companies and for certain actions not to be acceptable,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
that they would have ended up.
Okay,
That's
so
the
the holding
reason why.
accountability. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, to add to what Jerry is saying, I think also the mandate to go back into office and knowing, looking at somebody across the hall and knowing that they're celebrating, or you could be on the other side, knowing that this person is mourning over somebody they didn't know. It just builds animosity within. So companies are like, hey, we can't have that. We here to be productive, and y'all got to keep what y'all say online to the side. And additionally with that, for some reason, this election, a lot of people's, I don't want to say identity, but whatever the degree is under that was tied to it. It's like when Kamala lost, it's like a lot of liberals were so shell shocked. It took them months to get over it. And
So
I'm not sure why that is. So yeah, so like I personally feel, I could be very wrong, but I personally feel like, and this is a horrible thing to say, but just seeing the reaction online of the other side, I feel like this man's death was like a victory for them in their hearts. That's the way they were celebrating.
I don't believe that
That's
shit,
truly how
bro.
they feel.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't even believe most people that are commenting on Charlie Kirk even watched the ounce of what Charlie Kirk was. I think that
I
people
agree
just
with
don't
you.
like
I agree with
I think
you.
the majority
honestly,
of
bro.
people
I think that
don't.
most people that are speaking on it are speaking on it because it's the trendy thing to do, not because they actually gave a fuck or even watch any Charlie Kirk thing at all. And so if you're saying that they're rejoicing in his death, it's just because they deem it's not necessarily because they actually care for what it is that he stood for or was against what he stood for. I don't believe that shit, bro. And it makes it even dumb it makes it even more dumb for people to get fired, because it's like you got fired over some shit that you didn't even really care about.
Yeah.
Something that you wasn't even passionate about. You really dumb. Now I see you as, now I understand why you a fool. Now I understand why you out here crashing out and looking like a dummy. Because this wasn't even meaningful to you, but you wanted to put your 2 cents in. That was unsolicited, and you wanted to get your shit off. And so now here you go.
You know, there's a website dedicated to where HR representatives can go. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if the doxing, like personal information, like email address, phone number, address, but there's a website dedicated to people screenshot, whether it was on TikTok, Facebook, whatever social media. If whatever they found on your social media, they'll screenshot it. And if they have your name, they'll say, okay, well, Sarah Wilson, these are her screenshots that she said, but there is no, I don't know, I can't say that there is no like doxing information, but do we think it's the same thing? Like if there are HR representatives or hiring managers that are like, I wonder if I have any subordinates that have, went against our moral code. Let me go look and see if any of my employees are on this list. And if you find 2 or 3 people, and now you bring them into the HR office, and now you're saying, hey, we're going to have to terminate your employment. Do we think that's like looking at it through the same lens of people going out of their way to make sure
I don't
that
know nothing about these websites or nothing. I'm not familiar.
HR does internal stuff all the time, though. So that, like, they do that all the time, whether it's through their actual systems, whether it's if they have the resources to have an internal system to see what's being said on social media. That's an HR thing. Like they have the capabilities of doing that. If they choose to say, hey, this wasn't brought to me, but let me just go through this list and filter out and see who works for my company. The person who did the list may have doxed them, but the HR representatives that are doing their investigation, just their quarterly whatever, I don't think I think that's just HR doing their job.
Yeah.